Welcome to the first episode of Saturday Locks, a new show where I'm going to give you my college football picks of the week. Now, while you may have found the show inside of the Bucky Report channel, if you're not a Wisconsin Badger fan and not someone who listens to the Bucky Report, all good. This show is going to be just about college football and sports gambling. If you are an active listener to the Bucky Report and you like this stuff, fantastic. But yeah, we're going to do every week. We're going to talk about 4 to 5 picks, my picks, about college football, spreads, over and unders, money lines potentially. As many of you know, I live in Las Vegas. I definitely love sports gambling. So I thought I would just kind of share my picks. Last year, I did this a little bit just on Twitter. I didn't actually put anything out on YouTube or a podcast, but I ended up being 63% on the season last year. So I want to, put that out there and get involved. If anyone wants to give me your picks in the comments, what are your locks of the week, and engage in conversation about that, that'd be great. It's a lot of fun. So that's what we're going to do. Every week, the season record and last week's record are going to be on the screen if you're watching on YouTube. If you're listening to a podcast, all good. I'll talk through all that stuff. And it's going to be for Saturday games only. I know sometimes you get Thursday night, Friday night games, but we're going to do Saturday only. So the show will always drop on Friday inside of the Bucky Report channel. So if you're into this, check it out every Friday to hopefully give you some ideas, potential things to think about while you're making your picks going into the Saturday's games. And again, put your stuff in the comments. I'd love to hear feedback on my picks and also what some of your locks are going into the season. We're going to try to keep these to 10 or 15 minutes, just kind of, again, quick hit episodes for you to get some information and give you my picks. I'm going to make them every week anyway, so I thought I would just share and talk about it and get involved in what you guys also have to say. Okay, so we're going to try to do 4 to 5 picks a week. This week I've got 4. I'm not going to always have the same number. It just depends on what the lines are, what things I like, what the public money is. The one thing I will say is I do talk a lot about public money. And what I mean by that is simply a measure of where all the money's been bet. Sometimes I'll talk about the percentage of the picks for each team or public money. Public money, it's always interesting to me because Vegas wasn't built off of people winning their bets, right? So when 90% of people are betting one way, it's sometimes nice if you like the game already to bet the other way. So we'll talk about that as we get into tonight's picks. Week 1 is hard, right? You don't really know what's going on. No one really knows what to expect. If you watch the Wisconsin game last night, I mean, it was a lot different than anyone expected, although we got a win. So it's always tough. Week 2 gets a little bit easier because then you have overreactions, which we'll talk about next week. And it's easier to pick games in week 2. The goal, of course, every year is to get over 50%. That's what I'm hoping that I do this year. So I'm going to start with actually one of my locks of the week, one of the picks that I feel most strongly about, which is Texas at Ohio State. And I'm laying the points here for Ohio State. It's really interesting. I know there's a lot of hype on Texas is like the sexy pick to win the national championship. Arch Manning, hopefully he ends up being an Indianapolis Colt, is, certainly one of the hottest names in the sport right now, based on his last name, his pedigree. He is really good. And Ohio State lost Will Howard. Yes, they're not defending national champions, but people kind of question things when there's obviously a turnover change. The thing is, it really matters the fact that they're wearing that jersey. That name on the front of their jersey counts in games like this. Ohio State gets these kinds of things done, and Texas just typically doesn't. Yes, Julian Sayin is a new quarterback, but they also reloaded at a ton of other positions. Yes, you'll read that they lost a bunch of starters and things are very different there, but that team is still loaded on the defensive front. They're still loaded at wide receiver. They've got the best wide receiver, arguably in the country, and the best cornerback, the best defensive back in the country. And while they have an unproven QB, technically so does Texas. They also have an unproven QB just because we haven't seen a ton of Arch Manning. It's at Columbus. It's in the Horseshoe. I just don't see a situation where Texas really comes into Columbus and gets this win. I know that everybody wants to pick them. And the fact of the matter is everyone is picking them. 72% of public money is going on Texas. I'm taking Ohio State. I'm laying the points. And this is actually my number 1 game of the week. The other thing that happens a lot in week 1 is defenses are ahead of offenses in training, right? I mean, they can pick things up a little easier. Offenses take a little bit longer to bet in, especially with new quarterbacks. Clemson, one of the hottest picks this year to potentially go to the CFP, certainly, and maybe even win a national title. LSU is someone that's always around the top. That's an SEC team, ACC. the thing is, offenses don't always click this early in the season, especially in these super close games. This game matters for these teams so much as the season progresses, for seeding later, getting into the playoff. This could be a signature win for both programs. It's going to be a difficult game. And 57.5 points is just a little bit too high. It's not that I don't think these teams can score that. It's just I don't think they're scoring it in week one. So LSU at Clemson, big game on Saturday. I'm taking the under. I had thought about the spread here, maybe picking LSU, but the public money was kind of throwing me off a little bit. And I'm just not really sure. I think Clemson can do it. I think they're favored by 4 points, but under 57.5. It's a high number. I like a lot of unders, but I just kind of took the one that I felt like was really high. But people, yes, maybe you have a little extra people betting on the under. I still think this number hits. So LSU and Clemson, take the under 57.5. Third one up is Notre Dame and Miami. This one's really interesting to me. Notre Dame has a new quarterback. Yes, they obviously advanced deep into the playoffs, and there's a lot of hype around them. They're ranked 6th in the country. Don't forget that Miami has Carson Beck. That Carson Beck that transferred from Georgia, who threw nearly 3,500 yards and 28 touchdowns last year, threw nearly 4,000 yards the year before that, 24 touchdowns, 6 interceptions 2 years ago at Georgia. I know it's Georgia, but this is a real quarterback. This is a guy that's going to come into a team that's got weapons all around him, that has Xavier Lucas from Wisconsin, and a team that has an over and under at 9.5. There's certainly a team that sort of missed an opportunity to play in the playoff last year, and a lot of people expect to really be in the playoffs again. They're playing at home. It's +3. That basically means that that Vegas thinks that Notre Dame's actually 6 points better than Miami. I don't really think that's true. And again, it's early in the season. You never really know what you're going to get, so you have to kind of take all this with a grain of salt. But I'm taking Miami +3, hosting Notre Dame. The last one is a bit of a flyer. I recognize people are going to look at this and say, "What? You're going to do what?" I'm taking Old Dominion +23.5 at Indiana. Look here. So one of the main reasons that I like this, and I did forget to mention on the previous game, 86% of the public money is going on Notre Dame. Yet another reason I took Miami. So that kind of comes into factor here a little bit. Yes, it's Old Dominion. They did play a couple Power 4 teams last year. I think South Carolina really well. Their quarterback, Colton Joseph, had really good passing numbers, also ran for 627 yards and 11 touchdowns. He's a dual threat quarterback. I'm not saying they're going to beat IU. I get that IU believes that they're an amazing program and all this stuff. That's fine. That they are good. Mendoza is going to be really, really great there. Again, I think it's going to take a little bit of time for them to bed in with the new quarterback and get that machine sort of humming. Old Dominion is not bad, but 86% of public money is going on IU, because the spread doesn't seem that big. 23.5 is not a number that you're like, oh, they should be able to win by 23.5. And therefore, everyone is betting on it because they feel like, yeah, Indiana's really good. Indiana, surprised a lot of people last year. I'm not saying they're not going to be good. I don't think they're going to be as good as they were last year. They lost a lot of other talent. Yes, they replaced their quarterback with Mendoza. But when this many people are betting on it, and it's just kind of an obvious thing, it's, oh yeah, it's kind of a sucker bet. I'm taking Old Dominion +23.5. So those are my 4 picks. I'll run through them quickly again. Ohio State -1.5 at home against Texas. Taking Ohio State. LSU at Clemson. I'm taking the under 57.5. Notre Dame at Miami. I'm taking Miami +3, taking the points there, and then taking the points again with Old Dominion +23.5. At Indiana. So yeah, that'll do for our show today. Again, season record's going to be available every week. I'll tell you every week. I don't really, if I do really bad, then just bet on the opposite of what I say, right? These are just my ideas. Hopefully just gives you some ideas on things that you might want to bet on. And again, put yourself in the comments. Let me know what some of your picks are. And we'll see how the season goes. Hopefully I'm able to have a really good record like I did last year. Thanks for joining us.